welcome. We are today discussing women in comedy.
Oh, women. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
And I'm lucky to have with me four very talented actresses, comedians, writers, all of them, with us today. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Starting off, she is a Canadian Comedy Award nominee, a radio broadcaster, a writer, and comedian. This is Martha O'Neill.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me, Ward.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
She is an actress and comedian and has just completed a tour of South Africa and come back stateside. Please welcome Aisha Alfa.
Thank you.
Hi.
And she is the better half of the Ward and Al SiriusXM talk radio program and also hosts her own podcast, Digging In with Allison Dore, the always funny Allison Dore.
Yay!
And of course, a very acclaimed actress and comedian and writer herself. Please welcome Julia Hladkowicz.
Yay! Well, that was one of the credits we discussed, but sure. Anyway.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, women in comedy. Now,
And go. There's so many things.
you know what? I was looking at the numbers today before coming here to tape this today. So, women, 51% of the population. Okay? Female comedians, 25%.
Are we that high?
Of the population?
25%.
Are we that high?
25%
25% of comedians are women, right?
Right.
Okay.
In the top 20 highest paid comedians, there aren't even 5.
I
I
believe
was
it.
going to say, the one?
Oh, they're
Amy
Amy.
Schumer?
Yeah, I was
Is it
gonna
Amy Schumer
I
is
think it's
taking all the
Amy
money?
Schumer.
She's got to be.
Yeah.
She's got all, yeah.
Chelsea Handler.
Oh,
She has a bit of the
yeah.
money.
Chelsea Handler.
She
Maybe
got a bit of
little
money.
bit of Sarah
Sarah
Silverman.
Silverman?
Silverman.
Little slice
These
of
numbers are
Silverman.
actually higher than I thought.
Yeah.
I honestly, when you say 25%, I'm more thinking that's not all professional women comics. I mean, like women out there hitting the road making the money, there's not even that 25%, I don't think.
No.
You think it's less?
I think it's
don't
less.
know. I feel like it could be 25.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I would say at the outside.
Wait, is
but-
this? I'm confused by these stats. It's 25% of comedians are women?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so 75%
Are
men.
male
Okay.
or
Yeah.
and other.
I could see that because then of that
think probably-
25%, not all of them are
I think
probably
they
That's what I'm
Professional.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
traveling.
Right.
Women
Okay.
hitting the road, women doing the clubs.
Right.
Now,
Where are you getting these stats?
There's a guy with a van outside.
it's on the internet.
One woman, two women.
He went to Bing and typed in lady jokes. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Allison and I host a daily talk radio show on SiriusXM. And that's actually how we met, was teaming up that way because I interviewed her for another radio show talking about women in comedy because somebody had come out and said women aren't funny.
Yeah.
Someone? One?
No,
Oh,
no,
who was
no,
that
no,
one
no,
person?
It was one of the articles.
One of them.
I
One of
think it
the.
might have been the Hitchens article.
Oh, the Hitchens one.
where
There
It's
was
like,
a hot
can women-
year, like 4 years ago, where everybody was like, "I'm gonna write a think piece about how women aren't funny," and then
Yeah.
women were
Can
like, "I will burn you."
But I
Is
also
it
feel like,
genetically possible, though, for women to be funny?
Right,
I think
or-
we should make this a science-based question.
I think though that now it's really annoying that the pendulum has swung so far the other way where everyone's like, women are funny. And we're like, do we have to keep talking about that? Can't we just talk about what else is happening in our lives other than like, I have a vagina. And, Like,
Yeah.
I tell jokes
Yeah, why-
on stage.
why
That's how I
does-
talk when I'm a woman.
Why do we have to specify? Why can't just
But
people be comedians and people
that's-
be funny and people live their lives?
I still though get. I don't know about you, but I think it's we still have to do work. I mean, I still
Yeah.
get. We're walking on stage like, oh God, it's a woman. You hear that walking on stage, or after,
yeah,
and after the
society is
famous, compliment. You know, I don't usually think women
yeah.
are funny, but you are really good.
Well, see, that's it.
Still getting
That's
that.
the common
So
one
annoying.
that I hear. What I've noticed, though, going back and thinking about filming this show today, I went back and looked at it, and it's actually a recent thing. Are women funny? Are women not funny?
Right.
Okay, because in the 80s, during the comedy boom, you have HBO put on dozens of women. In fact, women were as frequent on stand-up comedy showcases as men were throughout the 80s.
Really?
But then
If
there
you-
was a huge backlash to that of people making fun of those women.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Right?
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
interesting
like they
because
only
if you
talk
go
about the
back,
periods and whatever.
Yeah.
some of the
Men
most
and women are
influential
different.
some of the
But
most
they are.
influential women or people in comedy were women. You can
Yeah.
go back to Lucille Ball.
Yeah. Carol
Not only
Burnett.
did she revolutionize comedy itself and the situation comedy,
Mm-hmm.
but syndication is because of Lucille
But
Ball.
there's still only
Yeah.
one.
Right.
So it's not like, I mean, so in the 80s, there was an influx, like you watched Evening at the Improv on A&E. Yeah, sure, there was a bunch of chicks. But if you look at revolutionary women in comedy, yeah, it was like Phyllis Diller, Lucille Ball. Like there was only
Jodie
ever
Fields.
one at a time.
Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers.
Yeah, there was like one at a time, and maybe with a little bit of overlap. And then in the 80s, we had a whole bunch of people being pushed out there, 3 of which I can still name.
Elaine Booth.
One who is still, yeah, like 2 that are still
That's great.
working.
There's a difference, though, I must say, between black women who are in comedy and white women who are in comedy.
Okay.
Because I feel like in the black comedy scene, like there are so many women who are revered. Like when they had Kings of Comedy, they also had Queens of Comedy.
that's
and that
true.
killed it. Like they were like out there murdering stages.
But how much crossover is there? Unfortunately, I wish there was more crossover. I don't know a lot of the black women stars.
I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of them are probably
your
showed
fault.
specifically on certain network, like BET and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But
We need to cross over, though.
yeah, well, I think they can cross over.
Yeah.
I think they can easily. It's just
Yeah.
like
We need to make it happen.
Was
Yeah.
it Monique who
Monique.
did the
Monique.
special in the prison? It was amazing.
oh,
I've not seen that.
I haven't seen it either.
I'm pretty
Monique
sure
is
it was
like-
her.
Like
It was
she's
incredible.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've found that keeps popping up every time the idea of are women funny, women in comedy, everything, I find a recurring thing where you'll hear someone go, you know, women always talking about their periods, women always talking about their vaginas, and women always talking about, and I've never known female comics
I
that
have.
that's actually what
First
they
of all,
talk about.
I talk about
I talk
those
about my
things
pussy.
because that's our lives, and we get to talk about it. When I remember it Just for Laughs, your year, was it? No, it was the year before you were at
Okay.
doing home. We did it together. What the
Yeah.
fuck? I think I was thinking you were, but the year before me. The 2 years before us, when we did it, 2015,
Okay.
2013 or 14. It was an all guys. There were no women on the show, and there were more period jokes than I've ever seen
Yeah.
on a homegrown show, and it was all guys.
That's what I was going to say. I used to do bingo with Jason Blanchard. Had a room, Fox and Fiddle, years ago, and we used to do newbie bingo, where we would tick off when guys would talk about touching themselves, going to the bathroom, women's periods, and losing their virginity, and whoever hit, we'd drink, we'd do shots, we got so drunk because the boys were talking about women's stuff way more than the women I know.
And here's the thing, I think, especially when it comes to vaginas, that's when people start keeping track. I don't know
Yeah.
why I put it in quotes.
Vaginas.
Mine's not
It's not
real,
even there.
But,
These mystical
Allison's Barbie
creatures.
underneath.
because
There, yeah.
men can talk about their dinkies, no one keeps
Yeah.
track, no one even notices,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
just kind of goes over. But the second a woman says vagina, they're
And
like,
also-
she said it.
Yes.
Can I say
It's a
that, like,
trigger word.
as a woman with a vagina,
It is.
like, I'm like a dirty-ish comic, and I'll talk about like sex and whatever. But a male comic who will talk about the same things, like, he'll get booked more on things because they're
He's
like,
clean.
He's clean. But I'm like, we have the same
Yeah.
subject
The
matter, but
perception-
why am
It's
I
funny.
dirty?
Allison and I did a tour together where we did several cities in a row, back to back to back, where the two of us followed each other back to back on stage. At the end of the show, people would come up to her and say, you know, you're funny, you're so much dirtier than he is. Which is not remotely true.
No.
I'm actually a far,
It's
far dirtier
perception,
comic.
though.
Yeah.
And I would
But I'm a lady.
say, did you hear what I was even talking about? And I noticed that if there was one reference by her, any kind of a reference to private parts, it was almost like this imaginary checkoff
I just
in
think
everyone's
it's,
head.
like, typically
But yet, that's my entire
traditionally-
act is talking
Yeah.
about
Like
my
traditionally,
penis.
women
Yeah.
are not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff, and like guys are like, oh, it's just like after a hard day at the mill, we talk about fucking our wives. You know what I mean? And that's just like the locker talk or whatever. Like that's
Locker
how
room,
guys talk, but women aren't.
Yeah, it's
supposed
normalized
to,
amongst men, but
to
not
talk.
among women.
Yeah, it's normalized. That's.
But the
I
best
think
part is it
big
really
words.
is when we were talking before the show, and I mean we're talking about everything from like porn stars to your ring to life
Yeah.
to green cards, and so it is normalized. It's just that guys really don't give a shit about what women talk about, historically. So they're like,
Well,
that's
it's
not
also-
what they talk
Yeah.
about.
But
They
it's
talk
also
about.
society.
I think we're
It's
having
not
pillow
only-
fights.
It's
Yeah,
women
that's true.
too.
That's
Women
true. It is
go,
women too.
I
Yeah.
was taught it's not polite to talk about this. I think the other thing is there has been a bit of a backlash, I feel like, recently, where as women we do go, yeah, you know what I'm going to talk about? My period and my vagina. Because society
you've
keeps
been told
going,
not
yeah,
to.
yeah, because, and I had a club owner one night was at the club and said to me, see if you can not say vagina at all times.
I know who that was.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
And so, you know what? I didn't say it the whole night.
Their name
But
will
I
be on
was
the
also-
bottom of this.
Yeah, yeah,
Tinder
just
tape
like
at the bottom.
No, I like to
Just
work.
right into the show, I'll tell you who it was.
This is a headshot.
It's but so I decided because he didn't want women talking about that kind of stuff, and I was just doing a guest spot, FYI. So I'm doing 10 minutes. Did the whole thing about poop. 10 minutes talks
And
about
what did he say
things
about
that-
that?
I went up to him afterwards, and he was mad. He had a mad face, and I go, "Didn't say vagina once."
Yeah.
So I was
Well,
shitting out
and-
my pussy, and
He,
all of that's gonna be bleeped.
I've been told to not say things on that stage, but he has never told a guy what to say ever, because it's a discomfort. It's that disconnect between women saying, and they're not brilliant.
Not comfortable with women.
Yeah.
And this is a club owner. He's booking people. His club has come under fire for not having enough women.
Yeah.
And he goes,
Yes.
"Well, there's just not a lot of women working."
This is
no,
what I
you
think,
just don't
though.
think any of them are funny.
Women,
they're
'cause,
working.
You know, we talk about this stuff, and I think I'm sort of torn in times where I'm like, we do have obstacles, and then also lots of people have obstacles coming into comedy and whatnot. But also, we then have to push forward because nothing's going to change until we just keep pushing and pushing and push,
Right.
and then we have a baby. No, but we push, and and then
Is that a
That's what
comedy
we're
baby?
having. Yeah. But and then it's this thing of sometimes the game is we have to sit there and be like, yeah, great, don't say vagina, got it, and then we can go and do whatever we want, and we
Yeah.
break all the rules, and that's all the women who are prolific in comedy have broken every single rule that's been set out for them.
But that's exactly it. I was thinking about this, all this talk about telling women, don't talk about your vagina, don't be dirty, don't, swear as much, don't anything like that. Some of the most influential female comics of all time are those that broke the mold, or those that did exactly that.
That's what
Roseanne
makes you
Barr,
influential.
Chelsea
But it's also
Handler.
those women that were genuinely themselves.
Yeah.
Like when if I'm asked to do like a clean set, like I can do it, but it's not the same essence of Julia. Because just in real life, I talk,
Yes.
I swear a
Well,
lot.
you
talking about
stand there,
that.
and you stand there, like when I have to do super clean, like corporate, you just don't quite let go of who you are. Like
Yeah.
you don't like become the best comic you
and
can
if
be.
you are a clean comic, that's totally fine. If that's you,
No, yeah.
Awesome.
if that's you, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But like I'm just
Well,
not
like
that,
Ellen.
so I don't want to ever be
Ellen is
someone
legit
that I'm
herself.
not.
Yeah.
And I've had like really like up there headliners who've never met me except like that one time, like, you're a comic? Piece of advice, don't be dirty. And then they just walk away. And I'm like, great.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have the same career, you and I.
Well, that's it. You got to decide what
Sir.
career you want too.
That's
Some
true.
women want really, or people, all comics want mainstream. They want the clean path, the corporate gigs, the whatever. But if you're willing to just be a club comic or just forge your own path and not worry about it, that's what then that's fine.
Well, and if you want to do TV now, I mean, like, look at
Yeah.
Amy Schumer, who is not
Yeah.
someone who's clean
No.
in any sense of it.
Yeah.
And she's making lots of dollar bills, yo. I mean, she's
Yeah.
doing her thing. And it's very much her.
It is her.
Yeah.
And what broke her was doing roasts.
Yes.
Right? So it's like having those shows. She didn't break off Conan where you can't
Right.
say swears, or you have to be. She broke off a show that allows you that freedom of stepping outside the box.
Totally. Totally.
There is some, just switching gears a bit, there is some advantages to being a woman because there's that argument that we might get chances that a young male comic wouldn't
Right.
because they need the woman quota.
You know what? I can say this as a male comic that has been a young comic and is now a middle-aged comic. That's not true. I think it's few and far between because
Here's what I think.
I've worked with so many female comics. I've worked with so many that I've seen it. I've seen
It
the
happens,
not
though.
just the criticism.
It
We're talking about
happens.
clean versus dirty, but not just clean versus dirty. Let's also look at I can tell you how few male comics I know will get told they need to dress differently. They need
Right.
to have their hair differently.
Yeah.
They need to look a certain
I think we
way.
need
They
to move away from shying away from this thing of like nepotism. Nepotism is the only way things happen in the entertainment
Yeah.
industry
Yeah.
because somebody knows you, they like what you do,
Yeah.
you're someone's pal, they put you on. How many times have we seen a crappy comedian get a spot because they're
Sure.
friends
Yeah.
with someone who
Sure.
can drive someone to the show? So
This
that's-
whole
and
show,
that
Doesn't
right now.
matter about gender or whatever.
Case
But that's
in
the thing
point.
is, like, I don't give it.
Nepotism doesn't
I don't
discriminate.
care if you put me on your show because I'm a woman and you need a woman. I don't care because I'm going to go on and I'm going to rock it. And then
Yeah.
the next time you're going to hire me, just because you think I'm funny. If you put me on because you need someone who's black, if you put me on, like, you know what I mean, whatever.
And
it's,
if you
I'm gonna go on and do it.
You're not going to
That's
get
the thing.
that
If
opportunity
you don't
down the road,
deliver,
right?
then
So-
that's where. If you were bombing every show you were ever on, they're like, well, I'm not going to book Aisha anymore.
Right.
But you don't. So that's.
And things are
Now
changing.
let me ask you this though: do you think that when you talk about that, if you bomb, you're not going to get invited back? You know, if you don't have the ultimate set, you're not going to get invited back.
Unless you
Is
can
that-
drive, and then everyone invites
Yeah,
you
and
everywhere.
then you're back.
Drive
Someone
everywhere.
to drive everyone
guys, I can
everywhere
drive.
and
Just
not
saying.
ask for gas money.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on
Oh,
every show.
you're gonna have
Yeah.
a real career.
But in
Well, let me ask
small
you.
towns.
yeah.
Do the male comics, and I'm asking because I don't know, I'm a male comic. Do the male comics get more chances? Is it one and done?
Here's one thing
female
I've
comics?
noticed. I don't. No, I don't necessarily think it's one and done.
It's relationships, I think, based on that.
I think a lot of it has to do with friendships. But I'll tell you this. Here's what I've noticed. A lot of male comics have a confidence
Oh.
that I find so surprising. So that even when
Yeah.
they bomb, they come off and like, no, I did great, or yeah, but it doesn't matter because I'm still awesome.
It's
Yeah.
And so that's
so
what's
true.
interesting to me.
Yes.
And that's what I've realized. That's where I feel like I've made a mistake in my mindset because I have no comedy self-esteem. So before every show, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be
Yeah.
hard.
That's what
You're
makes
100%.
us so good, though, is because we think we're crap until we're the best. And so, you know what I mean? So when
That
when
does
we do
help.
a show,
Yeah.
it's like we're gonna deliver every single time. There was a great
Yeah.
shirt I saw one of my friends had and just said, "God grant me the confidence of a mediocre white man."
Yeah.
And it's like, you know,
Men are shit.
they're
But-
not,
no,
but
no,
it's
but
just like
no,
so
I know.
funny. that-
But
Wait,
also,
let
I
Julia
do-
go with that.
I do want to address this because I'm sure there's going to be some people watching right now being like, these fucking yappy broads complaining about stuff when I can't get a job. No, I'm not like, nobody's man hating here. And I think it's
I
really,
love men.
I think
Yeah,
it's
me
really
too.
easy for people who aren't in this industry, or even people who are in this industry, to look at what we're doing as complaining or nitpicking, being like, funny's funny. Like, just be funny, just get it, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you get more opportunities because you're black or because you're a woman, because there's a spot for you. And I am just like, oh, there's so many white men, blah, blah, blah. Like,
So an
that's-
affirmative action kind of thing for comedy.
Yeah,
It does exist,
but
but it's
also
like,
just know that we're not sitting here like shitting on men. Like,
No.
we know
No.
so
Yeah.
many amazing male comedians, but
Yeah.
there's just more of them.
For the
There's
first
just
time
more
ever, I had a
dudes
weekend with
right
another
now.
woman. That's
What?
the first time in my whole career I had a weekend at a club with another
that's
woman.
the problem, is that clubs will be like, we can't have more than one woman, though.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
But you can have three
Well,
white
that's the
guys.
thing. If you
It's-
have more
it's
than
funny
one
you
woman,
say
it's
that.
a specialty show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all of a sudden less. I'm like, we're half the population. We're not fucking
We're
unicorns.
more than
Like,
half.
I've noticed that
Yeah.
there's been shows, Allison and I have done numerous shows together, where all of a sudden they think nothing about putting another man on the show, but if there's another woman, they go, no, we can't do that. We've already got Allison.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I talk about,
specialty show gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
specialty.
and what is it, why is more than one woman a specialty?
I think
Yeah.
the club owners are
Mindset.
afraid of using us up all at once because they can't work us more than twice a year or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
So we can't have them all in one weekend. Like,
And also, you have to provide tampons for the whole audience. It's very expensive. when you
Or
have
they're
all
like,
of
oh,
them.
like female
I
comics
played a
are
club
only
once
going
where they
to
had free
appeal
tampons in the
to
bathroom.
Females. They don't think we have the
love it.
same like
Yeah.
mass appeal. Like a guy doesn't want to just hear like a woman's opinion all the time.
Yeah.
And it like, in some, especially when you're playing smaller towns, like when you come on stage, people are like, they're immediately
Nervous.
they're doubting you, and they're like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Can I say
Prove me wrong.
Sometimes I absolutely relish the gasp when you go on. They go, ugh, a woman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, let's dig in. Let's
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, I know we're gonna have fun, and I know we're gonna have a great time. And then afterwards, they're gonna be like, it's like we open their eyes up to be like, oh, I didn't know that women
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
funny.
Let me ask you this. So what's harder, being a woman in comedy or being a person of color in comedy?
Well, I don't know because I've always been both. That's my.
Just
you know what I
be
mean?
one, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Choose one.
Well, here's the funny. Like, it's interesting for me now because I'm half black and half white, right? So I know I'm just as much white as I am black.
Right.
But so in Canada, we have this different perspective of like, oh, she's kind of something, and then since moving to the States, it's all of a sudden I have become black, like not just a color, but like a culture and a history and a burden of like our history and bringing this along. And I'm like, I don't understand though. I don't know what that is about. I don't know how to wrap my hair girl, I don't have a silk pillowcase. Black ladies are gonna be like, that girl, you know what I mean? I'm like, I got breakage. But like,
I have a silk pillow.
I don't
right?
understand
I'm
a
like,
word you just said.
Exactly, like
I do
black
not
women out there, you're gonna know.
I don't understand a word you just said. Silk pillowcase?
But
I don't
like,
understand that at all.
well, okay, so here's the thing. If
it's-
you have breakage on your pillowcase if you're sleeping and it moves around. So the back of my hair is all shorter. And also, I got a good man who's doing it right. So I'm getting a lot of breakage.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I'm learning
Your
something.
life
new
is
today.
so
I
much better
am.
than mine.
Yeah.
Do tell.
But the point is that like,
Why do you have to talk about your
carry with
vagina and
me-
your period so much?
I know, right? I bring with me, like we all do, as soon as we step on stage, we get judged instantaneously by what we appear to be on the front.
What we're wearing, what our hair looks like, what age we are,
Exactly.
what color our skin tone is.
What we forget though is that's for everybody. That's men, that's women, that's
Yeah.
people who are trans, who are disabled, who are tall, who are short, who are fat, who are skinny, who have acne, who don't.
We just seem to hear about it more, though. We seem to hear, the audience
Yeah.
feels
That's
free
like
to
The
share it
audience
with
is
us more.
comfortable sharing with us
Yes.
as women
They're
that
comfortable.
in general I don't find your type of
Your
person
gender.
funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask, just to go back to that, how do you guys, the way I have responded to, I don't usually find women funny, but you were funny, has changed
What do
over
you
the
say?
years. Well, now, especially when it's a woman, I go, really don't usually find women funny? And then I like to list a whole bunch of famous women that are funny and go,
Right.
oh, you don't think any of these people are funny? There was a time when it made me angry.
I usually say
mad.
thank you, because you know they're trying to compliment you in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I say thank you, but why don't you think that? Like, tell me why.
I
I'm
just asked them how
genuinely
many
interested.
women they've seen. Like, oh, how many comedy shows you seen? I saw one like last week at this comedy club, and that was it. And then I saw like someone on TV. She had like I don't know. It's like you haven't seen
Yeah.
enough. You
Yeah.
saw one female comic once. You
But
based your
isn't
Well, let
it
me
funny
ask you
how they
guys-
see a
let me ask
million
you guys this.
comedians who are male who bomb and they never think men aren't funny.
Yeah.
No, and I said to a young girl once, because I was in an angry phase, and she was like, oh, I don't usually think women are funny, but you're funny. And I go, oh, why do you think women are funny? Because your boyfriend told you they're not? I know. It was like, I listen.
Sassy.
But I don't
Snap.
think that's the way to handle it, right? Like, I don't think that's the way you
I don't know
do
how to
I was
handle it.
So
Because then
mad.
it's that whole
And she was a
stereotype
young
of catty
woman.
catty.
Well, let me
Yeah.
let me
I
ask
was
you
like-
this. Let me ask you this. Okay, we've been talking about women in comedy, and a lot of what the patriarchy has done, what men have done, and the way men in comedy have treated women in comedy. Okay, but what about women? Because one thing I've noticed when I've worked with a lot of female comics is how many women will go out of their way after a show to then tell the female comic, I don't normally like women.
Yeah.
I don't
It's-
normally
it's-
like female
for
comics.
me, it's equal
I don't have
parts.
men to come up and go, I don't like male comics, but you were okay.
I know.
What is it about the
Because
female
comic-
audience member?
A comic is men. Female,
Female
comic is a
women,
woman.
Yeah.
So there's a big like, when you have it's like there's a guy or there's a black guy. You know what I mean? And it's like there's these asterisks beside. Go flip it. Go.
No,
Let's
it's
hear it.
just okay because it's like people don't think that women can be sexist towards other women. For sure, it can
Big
happen.
time.
So even when Trump won, and people are like, you can't say that it's because of sexism that Hillary didn't win because so many women voted for Trump. I'm like, in
That
what
doesn't mean
world?
anything.
I've like experienced sexism like not the most, but a lot from women in the crowd who have watched me and have judged me and come up to me after and just like been very weird about it because they're not used to
Totally.
like a strong, powerful woman or whatever just speaking her mind. Maybe that's not their thing. So
Their experience, I think it's not their experience. A lot of women, unfortunately, I think the younger generation, like the millennials, but my generation, a strong, outspoken woman was a rarity. I mean, we're talking about Roseanne. Like Roseanne was the first
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
who
She
was
was
just.
unique.
She was the one who was, but she was an anomaly.
That was back when you were in grade school.
Yeah. Don't patronize me, you big shit.
yeah.
I think
Okay, fine, grad school. Fuck you.
comedy aside, I think women for a really long time were raised to compete with each other, to think that male attention was how you knew your value. And I think for a long time within the comedy world, because there are less women, and in entertainment in general, it's that we're in competition with each other because there's so few women. So if you get something, well, you're taking it away from me because there's only that one, which is
That's
crazy.
bullshit, though. I really,
It is.
really hate this. When people go, "Aren't you upset that could have been yours?" Can I just say, we are all unique beings, completely beautiful, and wonderful in our own way. Men, women, everybody. If someone's going to hire Julia they were never looking for me.
Yeah.
We don't have the same anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Other than the fact that we're women who exist in the moment and who are doing comedy.
And we're
I
super
really,
cute.
and I think that like women people go, well, women are catty, and I'm like, no, those are bitches.
Yeah.
Those are bitches.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry,
it's
but
like
like they're
Also,
being
everybody's
bitchy
catty
towards
and
each other.
competitive. Men, I've heard men fucking
Oh,
kibitz about each other.
men can
Yeah.
be the
Oh,
worst.
and so like I don't know
It's
if
a human
Brian
being
got this.
thing.
Yeah.
But you know
And
what's
it's
interesting
categories.
is men aren't criticized for criticizing each other.
Right.
No.
Women aren't just critical of each other, they're then also doubly criticized for being critical
Yeah.
of one
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
But
It's
I will
just so
say
hard.
the one thing I want women in entertainment in general, and possibly in the world, just entertainment is the world I know, is to realize that every time a woman achieves something, it only opens more doors for the rest of us.
Absolutely.
It doesn't shut doors, it opens,
It makes
opens
it
doors.
easier for all of us to then go in. I'm like coming from, so my background is I used to be a professional soccer player before I got into performance, right?
multi-talented.
But I come from a world where.
What's harder, being a woman's soccer
Oh
player
God!
or
being
being a
black
female
woman
comic?
soccer player.
You know?
Being, coming from a world where you have to work together to achieve anything.
Yeah.
Was that soccer or comedy?
Comedy, sorry,
Soccer.
soccer.
Yes.
Coming from that, but I bring that into comedy, and I think most women who are doing well, who are confident, and who like themselves, bring that same exact
Well,
thing.
and that's.
You know?
I'm just going to do a little plug for my festival, but I created a Women in Comedy Festival here in
Yeah.
Toronto, and
Great.
The She-Dot Festival.
She-Dot Festival.
She-Dot.
And we're going to our 4th year, or around our 4th year every May. But the whole thing was, we got to work together. We got to push each other forward.
Yeah.
We've got to highlight women, and it's not male bashing at all. Like I've done a lot of interviews for the festival. It's like, well, because you don't like guys. Like, I love guys, and I hope they come and see the shows. I want them to feel, but I want them to see 8, 9, 10 beautifully funny women on stage. And it kind of takes the gender out of it by doing an all-women festival, because they'll come and it's just all women on stage, and we don't even think like, oh, I liked her stuff, like it doesn't become
Just
about
like
being.
someone's funny, or they didn't find them funny, or they didn't like their comedy, they didn't like it.
Because they've already left
but
it at the
it's
door.
nothing
They've
to
already
do
left it
Can I
at the
say
door.
something about all-female shows while we're on the topic? Because I feel like there's a bit of a divide. People are like, why does there have to be an all-female show? Like, you're making it seem like females that like a specialty in that kind of way. But I'm like, there are so many shows that you can go to any night of the week, and it'll be an all-male lineup just because.
We just don't, that's just a comedy
So,
show.
Yeah.
Like, history
Yeah.
has shown, if you're like marginalized in any way, if you were not represented in the same way, then you create your own opportunities, such as an all-women's festival or an all-female show. And people are like, well, these are safe spaces, and only women could do them. I'm like, men can go watch them. First of all, shut up. And second of all, like, if you only do all-female rooms, then if that's what you want to do, sure. But you're not gonna get like the full spectrum.
I had
of
a male
comedy. You have
comment.
Is
to
it
do
possible?
all.
Is it possible that if there's more and more and more all-female shows, that maybe at some point people will do away with this idea of that being a specialty show? And
Yeah,
you'll just
I
see it
hope
as a
And
show?
eventually we don't need them.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, Julia was making the point earlier that someone, if they say you're funny for a woman, I don't usually think women are funny, and you say, well, how many women comics have you seen? And they go, oh, I saw one time. Well, maybe they go to a show, the She-Dot, and they see 9 on one show, and then they go, oh, I get it. I just didn't find that one lady funny.
Yeah, but there were 6
was-
on this
there-
show,
But I found 70% of the women on this show funny.
Yeah.
It's just that women doing anything is always women doing something.
something.
Right.
Versus just a person doing something.
Because
And
if you
unfortunately,
think
we're
about
there,
it, like women haven't had the vote for that long. If you think about like history, like
we haven't been
Not even
people.
100
We
years.
haven't been people
it's been
for
like
100
a
years yet.
blip. So we still have like a long way to go. So that's why people are like, are you still talking about that? It's like, yeah.
Especially when we've got
because you guys make us deal with it every day.
Well, especially
And by you
because-
guys, I mean society in general.
like Allison and Ward, you've got your podcasts, and we
We
all
have an international radio show,
We have an international radio show.
Sorry, pardon me.
could,
Pardon me. I'm
Take
pardon
it
me.
back. We're gonna edit that real quick. We're just gonna try again.
Allison Ward, you've got an international radio show. But anyone who's given a megaphone like we are today, and you guys, and anytime you're given kind of a way to get, that's when we got to talk about it and make it, normalize it. But not everyone on the ground has that that ability.
Well, getting back to when we're talking about women reacting to comedians who are women, right? One of the things I've always said is what I'd really like to see, and Julia put it perfectly when you said this idea that people have that women can't be sexist is the funniest thing to me, because I go, you know, women are like 51% of the population, 25% of the comedian population. If women would rally behind women who are comedians more, you guys would dominate the industry.
Well-
you would dominate this industry, and yet sometimes
It's not that. I think it's if there were, it's the bubble up effect, right? Like we are bubbling up. We are slowly moving up, and entertainment is recognizing that women can be leads and can be talking about things other than men when they are on screen. But everyone at the top, not everyone, most of the top is all old, white, conservative dudes.
Yeah.
So we are working in a place where it's like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
So eventually, after
But
time,
the decision makers
That
right
will
now
A lot
are
of people
still
in the positions of power who have the final say are men, are old white men, or sometimes women, but like, or people who just don't have a comedy brain.
Right.
Like the people who have the final say, especially in Canada, a lot of people higher up are
You know,
just
if you
like,
whisper it, they'll still hear you.
they just burst through the doors and they're like, freeze!
and not to say that there's nobody who supports it, but it's like in general, if we had to paint everything with one brush, the brush you're going to pick to paint the majority is people who are from that time when women were in the kitchen with their mouths shut and like serving you a scotch.
It's unfair to put it on
Scotch.
women.
Sounds
Ooh,
delicious.
I want
Can we get a
that.
woman to serve us a scotch? Please?
Yeah.
Real quick.
And it's unfair to
we
put
do
it.
have whiskey. We do have whiskey.
It's unfair to put it on women
Yeah.
to say if women rallied behind other women comics because women were raised in the same world.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a
And so
great
it
point.
depends on, listen, we live in a big city. We have access to tons of information, tons of different kinds of people, tons of events. If you're raised in a place where women are still held in very specific roles and you don't have the same access and you're going to be a woman who still buys into that ideal.
Yeah.
If you're a woman
Because
who
you don't know
came
any
up in a
different.
certain time. Yeah, that's the thing.
Can I bring up maybe a contentious point? Could it be a little bit of jealousy, the women?
Oh, listen.
Because women,
We can't blanket
we have the
femininity in
mean
this.
girl thing.
Yeah.
You know, like women in the audience, maybe they are a little jealous that we're up there getting the attention of the whole room.
Sure, some of them
and I hate to
are.
admit
There's
that might
a million
be.
different things. Like, but yeah, my point is just that it's not any one thing.
no.
It's not any one thing. So
many
everyone's not
factors.
jealous. Some women just don't know better. Some women do know better.
Some women are just jerks.
Yeah, it's the same
Or
as
it's
any
just
population
people,
breakdown.
But you know, okay, some women are jerks, okay? I've noticed something. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
She's
gone.
a jerk.
I'm a jerk. I'm a piece of shit.
She swears a lot.
But you're our piece of shit.
Sorry, continue.
No, I love you the way you are.
Yeah. I know I'm like blushing. Oh my god.
Because you're genuine,
That's the
and that's
coffee.
what matters
That's
to me.
the coffee.
Yeah, it's the coffee. I've had too much coffee. Yeah.
You know, but I've talked about this before. You know, let's go out of, say, the comedy clubs for a second and go into television or radio or things like that. What I've noticed is when women on television are portrayed as powerful, when men are portrayed as powerful, they're portrayed as determined, concise. When women, and a lot of times it's because they're written by men, when women are portrayed as powerful on TV, they're written as bitchy.
Bitches.
Right? It's written as
Sexy.
That's
Sexy
what
also.
we
But also
think.
sexy.
sure.
They're like, I'm
Maybe.
gonna use my like sexual prowess to dominate the world.
Well, we all know that women in higher up positions only got there by sleeping with the guy above them.
Or just sucking a dick. I mean, doesn't
Right?
have to do sleeping.
You're right. There doesn't have to be actual.
Have you
full
guys?
sex.
Okay, I rewatched Boomerang. Just
I just want to say that the opinions expressed by Aisha Alfa do not necessarily represent the casting methods of this show.
You know what I mean?
What's Boomerang?
Boomerang.
Ew, Ward.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie
movie.
Murphy.
Oh, yes,
movie.
yes, yes,
I
yes,
haven't
yes.
seen it.
So one of my all-time favorite people in the world is Eartha Kitt.
I just downloaded 12 of her albums.
Oh my God! Right, just like I will not compromise.
'Cause I-
Right, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the most amazing.
Yeah.
So Eartha, the whole movie is really interesting. Just an aside, a lot of black people in that movie, even the extras for the first half of the movie, not a lot of white people. So I was like, it's beautiful to
Nice.
see white people on stage. But everything
Half
about
of
it.
you was really pleased
Half
with
of me
that.
was so happy. The other half was like, you know, it's always this weird thing. But Eartha Kitt in that movie it's funny because she's such an amazing character. She is the figurehead of a cosmetics company who is seducing Eddie Murphy, who's a young advertising guy for them, and she basically makes him do her to move up in the world. And it is such a beautiful commentary on society in a reverse way, but it's seen as so comedic because it's like,
You're like,
this
that's gonna happen.
older lady
Like,
who
yeah.
would seduce him.
Yeah, like that would never happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what's
Crazy.
beautiful about it that I thought is that she isn't seen as mean or rude or horrible. She's just seen as this sort of like innately sexual, kooky woman.
Yeah.
And she is. She's probably in her 70s
Yeah.
in that when
Yeah.
she does that show. And man, is she a sex pot. But I'm just like,
She was till the
She's-
day she
till
died.
the
That
day-
woman.
and
oozed
apparently
sex.
she went out just screaming to the world. I'm like, of course she did. Of
Yeah.
course she did. But that's what women like. That's the reality. The funny part of that movie is that that's just the reality of women when you reverse the roles at
Yeah.
all, like a lot of the time in
Yep.
male dominated.
But have you noticed that when women are written in movies or television, a lot of times it's powerful that whoever writes that, and maybe sometimes it's written by women too, I don't know, but I've said this before, I noticed that powerful men can be written that way. For some reason, someone has decided if it's a powerful woman, she has to be mean. We have
She's
to
not
write
smart.
her
Or have
as
big
cruel.
shoulder pad.
We have
She has to be mean, or she has to be like a badass, or she has to like physically fight someone, like a Jessica Jones character, which I'm not knocking. That's a fucking great.
Well,
show.
it's improving
But,
though.
like-
I would agree, it's improving. Like Jessica Jones is a great example.
But it's also it's like, no, she has to kick ass. It's not just like
She has to not have
It's
emotions,
not powerful in her like
She can't have
being
emotions.
and in her like.
How about Game of
essence.
Thrones? Game of Thrones.
Oh, Khaleesi.
A lot of women, though, who aren't necessarily fighters, are becoming the dominant characters. Westworld, I'm watching Westworld. It's amazing.
No,
it's
what's
true.
changing.
Things are
right?
things
Right?
are changing.
But you still got to look good naked.
You have to be
That's the
naked.
thing. You can't be.
Yeah.
and
That's
also,
true.
Like,
Interesting
It's still
point.
the whole thing
Yeah.
of like when a like flubby guy's naked, it's hilarious, and then like a woman naked, it's just still like, oh
Yeah.
my god, nipples. Like,
Are there any? Can you think of anything off the top of your head where there's a flubby woman naked?
Yes,
Kathy
Kathy
Bates.
Bates.
Oh, I
Yes,
love Kathy
Misery.
Bates.
What-
Not Misery.
No, what was that movie? She gets in the hot tub.
About Schmidt.
Oh, about Schmidt.
But
That
here's
is
the thing.
such a. I love her
But
so
here's
much.
she's the best. But here's the thing. Everyone's like, how brave? How brave because she
Right.
is an older woman.
Yeah.
Which what was she? 40 in that?
She was older than that. She was probably
She
in
was
her
50s?
probably in her 50s.
Okay, so and look at her body.
Yes.
And she was
That's
so-
a great point.
She should be ashamed of her body.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it was great. I think no one else
Yeah.
is doing it at her age and her weight and all that kind of stuff. Well, though it's been done at her age, but with a perfect body, a body that looks like
Yeah.
a 20-year-old, right? And so on one hand, it's like, yes, Kathy Bates legit is the best in the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the way people talked about it were like, oh, if I had that body, I'd kill myself. She's so brave for doing it.
Yeah.
So that was annoying.
Yeah, totally,
You
absolutely.
can't- you
But
can't
and
say
how
that.
it's always about like when Susan Sarandon went to I don't remember what awards that was where she had a
Oh, yeah.
bustier. First of all, Susan Sarandon is one
Amazing.
of the most sexy, hot women.
Yeah.
And she looks about 20 years younger than she is.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with anything about the person or her talent or her personality or anything like that. But that's just a fact.
yeah.
And people were commenting how she's in her whatever 50s, 60s.
Like,
And
too much cleavage.
yeah, too much cleavage. Are you kidding me? I would kill for those boobs. Are you kidding me
Yeah.
right now? Like, give me
Show
a
the
break.
cleavage.
I'd kill for those movies.
But that's the thing. It's
Right?
like
You
you
have
either
killed
have,
for
if
those
you're gonna
boobs.
show your body in a funny way, it's like you better fucking be fat.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like
Yes.
you can't just show nudity and be like a thinner woman or like a not like overweight person.
Average sized.
Like yeah, if
You're either,
you can't
you're either
be-
beautiful or you're comical.
and it's the
You
same-
can't be average sized
and I
in
feel
Hollywood.
and I feel like it is changing now. Like again, I hate to keep bringing it back to like Amy Schumer, but like that kind of body type before I feel is like you either have to be like super thin, perfect body, like bang bang,
Or overweight.
or
But
overweight.
Amy Schumer was.
Totally.
At one point, Amy Schumer
Lost weight?
was much smaller
quite
than
thin?
she is now. And I've noticed that one of the criticisms of her that she gets is people say she's not as small as she used to
And like,
be.
why should we even care? Is she
Who
funny?
cares?
Yes.
Is she still funny?
No, I know it's
But
the double
name-
standard. It's the
name
double
any,
standard.
Name any comedian, male or female, name any actor, male or female, who probably stays around the same size as they age, right?
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin was a sex symbol, was skinny and everything,
Yeah.
and now as he's gotten older, no one said anything about him getting
The fact
bigger
that
or larger.
dad bod is a thing that people find
Oh,
sexy.
yeah.
Are
They're
you
like
kidding
the
me?
dad bod is in.
DiCaprio.
Dad
It's
bod.
his fault.
Here's the thing. We all love not dad bod, but like as we get older, we're like we don't expect bodies to stay the same. I don't even know if we expect that when we're young, but it's only for men.
Yeah.
You know, in this industry,
In this
it's like
industry, yeah.
men are allowed to go gray.
They're allowed
men
to
are allowed
age.
to have
Yeah.
wrinkles and to like have a bit of a belly.
And still
Women,
be sexy.
what do you mean? Why are your boobs sagging?
Yeah.
Why do you
Oh,
have
I'm gonna.
any gray hair?
Why would I
George
date you when
Clooney-
I can date a woman 20 years
But then people
younger?
bring
Here's
it
why
back
you
to
date
like
me.
evolution.
Because I got some experience. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You went
Eartha,
Spanish.
go.
Now,
Is there the expectation also as a woman in comedy that you have a shelf life? That it's that
hope
you've
not.
got
I think
a certain amount of time to make
comedies-
it?
One of the ones where you don't as much
Yeah.
as like
Yeah.
every other.
If
you know,
anything,
part
it's
of
like
the-
it's
the
like you're
industry.
like an
Evergreen?
olive where you'll like brine and you'll get better with age.
Well, and but there is like I'm
Olive.
An
I'm
olive,
finding
like a fine
now-
wine. That's the one.
like I feel like I've been doing this a dozen years plus other stuff before that, and I'm a certain age, and I am finding though, like, will I get into the festivals? 'Cause will they even bother with me now? Like, there is that thought that it comes through my head, where it didn't even go through my head 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like and I'm like, do I even bother showcasing? Do I even
That-
bother submitting?
That I don't think is gender based though.
No, I'm talking about age. We're talking about age. So like,
Yeah.
But
That's
oh,
what
yeah,
I'm
maybe
saying.
like.
But I don't think that's just for
But
women.
you
in
don't
the
think it's
industry.
worse for an older
it
woman?
is. It
It
is
might
worse
be
for
worse-
older women.
it might be
know-
worse,
I think it's
but
wor- I think it's
know
worse for
women-
older women.
I know women who club owners have been like, they're just kind of too old now, and it's like, oh
That
really?
is-
But you
yes,
have
you're
all
right.
of these like dinosaur male headliners.
Yeah.
Who you've
Yeah.
kept on,
Yeah.
like
Oh
No,
yeah,
I-
now I know exactly
Yeah.
who we're
Yeah,
talking
I know
You know
about.
too.
what it
Yes,
is?
you're
It's
right.
because the club owners or people who are booking shows, whether it's women or men, we want to hang out with people who we hang out with. So if most clubs and a lot of shows are booked by men. So
Yeah.
what are they comfortable with? Hanging out with their friends, their
Yeah.
dad's friends, their dad, and all these like older
dad's
guys,
friends.
right? Well, you know what I'm saying?
and my
Like-
dad, my dad's friends,
well,
my dad's other
but you know,
friends.
you go home for
My dad doesn't
Thanksgiving,
have
whatever.
friends.
But
Well, let me tell you this. I can tell you that men sitting around talking, comedians,
Yeah.
male comics, never talk about having a shelf life. And if anything, some of us go, I look back on who I was as a comedian in my 20s. I've been a professional comedian for over 20 years, and I had to struggle.
headlining the old Chuckle Bucket in Albuquerque.
I
mean, that's pretty good.
It was Uncle
Yeah, I was
Chuckle
gonna say
Bucket.
headlining, yeah.
Credit where
Headlining.
credit's
Oh,
due.
chuckle buckets.
But I mean, I was paid as a comedian in my 20s, and yet, but I felt I wasn't taken seriously until I reached my mid-30s as a male
But that's the
comic.
same
But
conversation
I
women are
find-
having.
But no, I find that female comics, they've got to break through younger in order to be taken seriously, because it's almost like as a male comic,
depends,
no one
though.
takes you seriously until you've reached a certain age, because they
Yeah.
go, look at this dumb kid, what could he possibly know? But then, as a female comic, it seems you reach an age where they go, she's almost out to pasture.
It's like you're
You know
either
what?
too young or you're too old. There's
Well,
like a
and
sweet
here's-
spot. They're like,
here's-
you're 32, perfect. You're 33, get out.
Here's what I'm finding though, as I've hit this age. I think it's like Kate Davis, myself, we're of a similar age. I think if you're kind of cool to hang out with, it's
Yeah.
less of an issue.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, like there's some older white guys who like you'd be in a car with them for 2 hours. Oh no, thank you. So I think it really comes
Yeah.
down to
What are you trying to
personality.
say?
Not you.
Oh, okay.
Other people. But but no, but there is a point where you gotta be fine with all
Yeah.
the stuff that goes on with the younger comics, and
But I think the other thing too is not giving up, right? Sure. And so here's the
yeah,
thing.
desperation keeps you young.
But here's the thing too. The reason why there's so few women in comedy is it is a hard road, and women drop out faster.
There's a lot of factors. I mean, if you're a woman who wants to have a family, we have the babe in us.
Oh God,
You
yeah.
can't travel and do that if you're like there's that argument as well too.
Yeah.
Is
But
that there's certain things that women can do that are
Right.
much harder to do on the road in these crappy towns.
But even-
Kathleen McGee was talking about being a woman and going on tour, and because you're a woman and you're a female comedian, people go, oh, and she talks about sex on stage and like, I guess she wants to fuck me then. And then
Yeah.
they'll break down her door, like physically almost
she has
break
had
down her door.
Yeah, she has had at hotels.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
ask you that.
They give her room number out.
Let me ask you that. Is that a pressure any of you have felt in your career? Have you felt a pressure, and I don't mean to have sex as in like the term of the casting couch or whatever, but have you felt the pressure of sex when on the road?
No,
or,
comedians are gross.
or
How
the,
many of you slept with them?
or the threat of it, or the threat of that your
married
career
for
is in
one.
danger if you don't. Have you had that?
No.
I haven't, but I also give off like a strong like fuck you vibe.
Yeah.
Like I'm very not like a flirty person. I'm awkward and
I
I'm
think a
very
lot of
much
us
like
do,
this
though.
is who I am. I rarely get hit on after shows because I feel like I give out real essence, or if a guy is hitting on me, I'm like, hey, thanks for coming to the show, pal. Really enjoyed it. Oh my god,
I
like
get
my
hit on a
husband.
lot after
You really
shows,
are
a lot.
unfriendly.
Do you?
I get
I'm
hit on
a
a lot,
fucking
and it's
cold-hearted
awkward, and
bitch.
I'm like, they'll be like, "You were so funny, it's great, so maybe we can hang out." And I'm like, I'm a Manitoba girl. We're friendly to the death of us.
That's the thing,
We will
you're
literally
very
be friendly to our
open and
murderers.
lovely.
They're like, as they're killing us, we're like, "Oh, that was a good stab. Thank you."
I'm from
You know?
Ottawa.
I'll tell you,
We're
there's-
grizzled.
There's only once or twice have I felt like I would not say pressure, but I like, oh wow, my career would be a lot easier if I boned this guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to because it's gross. And
But also, what I didn't, what I
gestured
kind
toward
of grew
me.
up with was
not
people.
you. Gross.
You Lord, no.
Also, like you have more power than I do.
But can I say something about the whole sex thing? The worst part, I wasn't fucking anybody to get ahead, but
You're
when
like,
I would
wait, to get ahead. I
wait,
was
also,
fucking a lot of
no,
people.
none of
to
us
get-
were
no,
either.
but I'm not saying that you were, but the things when people would like male comics, like friends of mine would be like, oh, people have said some stuff about you, like, oh, she's probably on this show because she sucked so-and-so's dick. This is before I was
Yeah,
in a
there's
long-term
that,
relationship.
yeah.
Oh, she
always.
probably only got this because of that. First of all, I wasn't getting anything. I was getting on like an open mic, so relax. But just that's the thing, like, oh, if she got this, it's because of this.
Right.
Is that
Yeah,
even
yeah.
more insulting though?
Yes.
That
Yes.
you slept your way to the middle?
Yeah, so, but I'm like, I didn't even sleep my people thinking that I was sleeping
But
my way.
this is the world we live in. This
the
is
bottom.
not just comedy.
No.
I'm sorry, because we talk about
Yeah.
this as if it only happens in this industry.
No,
There-
this is
I
being a
played
woman.
soccer in a men's league, and everyone's like, "What did you do? Suck a dick to get on this team?" No, I tried out, and people doubted me, and I scored 3 of our 4 goals in our first game.
Yeah.
So of course they had to keep me. We have to keep as women,
And-
proving ourselves over and over and over again, and realizing that this happens in every industry across the board. And until this like seesaw is evened out a little bit, then we can all just relax.
And
and
it's evening out.
It is evening
It
out
is, but there's
slowly,
still
it
work
goes
to be
back and
done.
forth.
Yeah.
But then when it starts evening out, then you have people who are like men's rights activists, and they're like, feminism is cancer, feminazis. Like,
But there's
know
also
your role.
that's
and,
the
like,
that's the extreme. Those are this small population of people who are crazy,
And
there are
loud.
also
They're
women
loud.
who are crazy.
Yeah.
And like that's just we take the outliers out and we go, great. What's the
in the
bell
middle?
curve? Right?
Okay, so where does it go from here? What is the future of, I hate to pigeonhole the 4 of you, but what's the future of women in comedy?
I prefer to be like a dove, not a pigeon. I'll be dove hole.
That's very
Dove hole
elegant.
sounds like a sex act.
It does sound like a
Yeah.
sex
Yeah.
act,
Yeah.
actually.
You
Oh,
are.
God.
That's how she gets ahead. She dove
I
holes.
dove hole
Yeah,
everybody.
she
yeah.
dove
Yeah,
hole
you
dove
dove
everybody.
hold your way to be here today.
Dove
Not
hole,
me.
people don't know. It just means taking a shit on
I
someone's front step.
pigeonhole.
Getting the old dove hole.
That's amazing. I love you so much.
I think the future of women in comedy is kind of like what we're doing, and it starts with visibility. So it's more female festivals and just people getting out to watch comedy and like watching it with an open mind and seeing more women.
Yeah.
Because right now the numbers are suggesting there's more men in comedy. So I
Far
think
more.
if more women start doing it and sticking with it, and that starts with a support group. Because like my husband's a comedian as well, and he was saying like he kind of like shot up really early, faster, because he's like, I would just always go out with my guy friends. I started with this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. We'd always go out to all the shows together. I didn't have like a pal that I was starting with.
Yeah.
So it was me going to shows alone. So I think it's finding your support system, which is
Yeah.
happening more and more now. And that's why I think that these, Comedy Girl and like these sort of like female-centric shows are beneficial for young comedians to find their pack and then to move around together. Because at the beginning, whether you're a man or a woman, it is scary in comedy. So if you find
Yeah,
a
and
support
if-
group and then you go out and do it, then you're more likely to stick with it. And I think that is the future.
I
of
think the
comedy.
future is we need the public, the public, to come out and not all these cameras, not to come out and support and not just enjoy comedy. Don't even worry what's between our legs. Just don't worry.
Just honestly go based on the jokes,
yeah.
right? Don't start out going
And maybe
oh,
get a
no,
little
it's
vocal
lady.
about your love of a female comic. If you find a comic that you love, maybe let people
Yeah.
know.
Also, if someone has a bad set, don't feel like you need to go up to them and tell them that.
Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
People really love to do that with comics in general.
Like, that was rough, eh?
No, you wouldn't go up to someone after a play you didn't like. You wouldn't wait outside the stage door
Yeah.
and go, by the way, you sucked. Like, it happens a lot. But support is lovely.
And also online commenters.
Oh,
what are you
just
doing?
don't. You give up
There's
your
a
life.
human on the end of that.
Yeah.
Stop being a piece of shit, and let's
Wow.
just all be nicer to each other.
Can I
okay?
also say that I think that part of the future of comedy and also in general the world is that women are going to stop being apologetic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when that happens,
Yep.
it's like everything will just be normalized because we apologize for
You're right.
everything because
Again,
we
we're
are
conditioned to, and
we're
we got to break
conditioned
it.
to, and we work in groups. You know what I mean? We support each other and things like that. But here's the thing. I have learned more and more. The more I apologize, the more I'm giving away my power. When I sit and I own what I want, and when I have disagreements with people, and when there's someone who I don't like, and it's okay. We don't have to. Women, we tend to want to be like, we're all the same. And men want to be like, we're all unique and different, and we're acknowledging that. And so the more that we as women own our own stuff, because listen, women of the world, we are the fucking best. You know what I mean? If I'm going to quote Sandra Bernardini, take it easy. You know what I mean?
Take it easy.
Let's
Yeah.
just all sit back and enjoy our differences and acknowledge that stuff and find the beauty in it. Because the more we do that, the more society as a whole, including men, will start to go, oh, they don't all have to be Barbie and quiet and have no vaginas and they never talk about it on stage. Wonderful.
How
Yeah.
about this? Likable. I've noticed the word likable gets thrown around
Yeah.
with female comics more than male comics. An example is there was just a presidential election.
What? Really?
A big deal was made
About
over one
likability.
candidate and one candidate's likability. And I noticed that with women in comedy that I go, so often I hear this word about likability and likable. And I go, man, some of the most revered male comics you'll ever see
Not likable.
Are not likable. at all.
granted, come right out and go, hey, my persona is that of being a huge douche,
Yeah.
mine of being an ass, right? My own persona is that of being this cocky ass on stage. No one ever talks about my likability, but I've noticed even when you and I have
Yeah,
toured,
and that's something-
that people will talk about likability. And that's what I would like to think, that we'll get to this point where it won't be about whether or not a female comic is likable. It'll just be about whether or not she was funny.
I personally know comics that are terrible people both on stage and off. And even I'm like, oh man, I gotta admit that guy's hilarious.
But
though.
yeah, I feel like-
But I hate his persona and I
Yep.
hate him.
Yep.
But oh my god, so funny.
Yeah.
Right? And
Respecting
so,
the craft versus
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of
But
going,
you're
that
not
person
gonna-
makes me laugh. It doesn't really matter, I guess, if I like
But
him or not. 'cause they're
success in
funny.
any industry, especially the comedy,
No,
am I going to
but-
drive? When I going to book you? I like you. I like you. I like you. I like all you guys.
Yeah.
So
Why
I'm,
did you
I'm,
point to me when you said you like people?
I like. No, I went and did this.
Right? She doesn't
She
like
likes
black
you the
people.
best.
I like you too, Cupcake.
But you know what? I would ask any one of you guys to be on my show.
Yeah.
If I don't like you, I'm not gonna. So that's how you get it. And women, as you say, you're not
Yeah.
gonna apologize, but there is that we do accommodate so much more,
Yes.
and we like. Do you
We're
like me? Do you like me? Do you
accommodating.
like
Yeah.
me?
That is a
I'm
good
gonna. I
word.
learned a
That's
new
a better
expression.
word than apologizing.
I
accommodating.
learned a new expression. I'm gonna do it. Lean in. I'm gonna lean in more. So
And
Can I
Tell
tell you? I went from lean in to this is my new thing. Vagina first. Let's lead. Let's lead
Lean with our
Let's
vaginas.
lead with our. You know what I mean? Let's
Yeah.
get it out there.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
just dealing with
And
that.
on that
tight
note,
You're
jeans.
changed.
Look at how she
Did you make her
reacted
blush?
though.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
how
telling
society reacts.
If that was
we
Ward,
can't just keep doing it.
if that was Ward doing that to me, I'd backflip over this fucking couch. Like,
on that note, I want to thank everybody for being here today, talking about women in comedy. That is all the time we have. But I want to thank Martha O'Neill, Aisha Alfa, Allison Dore, Julia Hladkowicz for joining us. And thank you for joining us. We hope that you'll come back when we take the conversation off stage.